So in this first conversation, I really like to sort of frame it in two different ways, and you get to choose where we go with it. So oftentimes I start with what's called a conversation for possibility. And the idea there is really that we get to spend, the next hour really just being with what is it that Joshua wants to create in the next 3 to 6 to 12 months. And it's really just an open conversation to be supported around. And there's some more stuff that we can get into there that I'll sort of pre-frame the conversation with. However, you also, in the request, you requested what I would call a deep coaching session. And so the idea there with a deep coaching session is like, if you feel like you've got a vision, you've got, a direction that you're moving towards, you feel clear on that, and the conversation to have here is to start to look at, well, where do we support you from here? Is there something in the way? Is there just a place of deeper exploration outside of the vision? And so does that make sense? So really what we're looking at is two different pathways of a conversation. And as you hear those options, which one feels sort of most calling to you?
Um, probably where I'm at right now, probably the first option, kind of more of an exploratory, foundational, get to know each other, generate some trust there. And then it probably won't take very long based upon how this works, how often we're meeting, what 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 my investment in you for investing in me is. It probably won't take us very long to get there. Um, but there is quite a bit about me that, and some things that I've been through in my life that probably anybody who's going to um, develop a deep coaching relationship with me needs to know. Um, and I would hate to be 6 months down the road, or 3 months down the road or whatever, and I pop off and say something about some of this trauma. I have a trauma heavy life. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
say
Mm-hmm.
that. And so I would hate 90 days down the road to mention something. You'd be like, "Hey, man, why did I not know that already?" Type
Right.
of deal, And so, yeah, I think more of the exploratory kind of lay a foundation for, who is Josh, and also for me to get comfortable and open up, I need to know a little bit about who is Andrew as well. I are you married? You got kids? What do you do for a living? Just basic information to where it's not quite. I mean, I know that you're the coach and I'm the player, if you will, but I also want to know something about the leadership I'm submitting to, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I really hear that. And so, here so the opportunity here in this conversation is like, can you trust that in terms of us talking about logistics and what coaching can look like, that can all come in a future conversation, if we decide to go there. Really what I want to open the space up for you here for today's conversation is really just one of being of service, that we don't even have to worry about whether we're going to be entering into a coaching relationship, but really just an opportunity to be supported, um, to get a feel for the style of coaching that I have, but really so as to really just create those next steps. And at the end of our conversation today, if you're like, yeah, I'd be interested to find out more of what it looks like to work together, we'll set up another time and we'll have a conversation and dive into those details. um, but if you're open for today, what I'd really like to create is just a space that you get to be supported, you get to really just be with this vision that you have for the future. How does that sound?
Yeah, man, that's kind of where I'm at, and I Pam and I counseled some young men. We moved in a pair of 16-year-old twin boys 5 years ago into our house. That was part of the ministry, if you will, the nonprofit trying to get young men on a path before they went to prison. Not rehabilitation, but intervention, if you will. Let's get these kids. Let's educate some farmers, some electricians, some welders, some blue collar guys, because there's so many young men who aren't going to college. And I got really tired of, especially in the you'll hear me say North American church. So the most important thing you should know about me, in my opinion, is that while I am a believer in God the Father, the Creator, His Son who was sacrificed, and the Holy Spirit, I do not participate in North American church. My Sabbath is sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. I keep a schedule of the original Jewish feast and festivals. I eat a kosher diet. That's just what I do. It's what I feel internally convicted to do, and it has paid some dividends in my life. So it would have to be something major to unsettle me off of that course. And so I got really tired of in Sunday morning church going to these prayer breakfasts and everything. And number one, the food is trash. You're eating trash food at 6:30 in the morning, setting yourself up for a complete day of physical misery, basically. And there are a lot of knucklehead young men and young women as well, but I got really tired of hearing, why doesn't that person just act like an adult? Or why don't he just pull his head out of his ass, if you will? But nobody was willing to give any instruction or develop a relationship and help these young men. It's like, how do you get to act like an adult if nobody's ever modeled that for you?
Yes.
How do you get to be a good quarterback if you just pick up a football one day and just start throwing it around? Yeah, there's a few people who are going to have a passion and a certain aptitude for that. But most people who are good at anything have had somebody in their life coach them or teach them how to be good at said thing.
Right. Absolutely. And so as we sit with this conversation right here, and we just look at this from a place of you being supported to create this vision of your life going forward. um, I'm gonna sort of open the door on a few concepts that I've come across over the years in this conversation. So when it comes to creating the vision for the future, there's sort of three places that I see people kind of come from. And this kind of will set the framework for our conversation to come. First place is that people are not having this conversation. People are sort of just in their flow of life and, working, paying the bills, doing what they need to do, but they're not actually really in tune with, hey, what do I actually want for my life? So even right now, us just having this conversation is sort of a step past, where a lot of people go. And as we start to get into these other areas, it gets a little bit more tricky, we'll say, because here are sort of the two areas that I also see people get hung up on. The first being that oftentimes when we look to create the future, the vision that we have, we at times come from a place of, well, this is the best that I can get. I see the future that I want, but I kind of have to be realistic. And so there's an impact to that, right? Where we just allow ourselves to sort of be with what's the best we can get. And then the other side of where people come from is that they often create the future from the past. So past experiences, past traumas, past relationships, they all impact how we're creating the future. And so, as you can imagine, all of those sort of places are not going to be the most empowering place to come from. So in our conversation today, what I'm here to support you with is, one, really just being in this conversation about the vision that you have, and then also supporting you if I'm hearing certain things. Where is this coming from? Are you sort of staying in the realm of the predictable? And that's really what this conversation is about, is really mapping out what does this empowered future look like for Joshua. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yep. But yeah, and I will tell you, you mentioned a couple of things. The um, building a future while dragging crap in from the past. That's an area that I suffer from. Lack of confidence is definitely something. Well, that can go back to the peaks and valleys type of deal. Some days I have extreme confidence. Some days I have putrid confidence. And again, finding that, yes, there's going to be peaks and valleys in life, always, but staying somewhere in the middle, not flatlining, if you will, but making your life EKG, if you will, just a little smoother, just
Mm-hmm.
a 10% less lows, 10% less peaks, and you're more efficient. It's kind of like an engine is all internal combustion engines have a sweet spot where they're the most efficient, where they're using the least amount of fuel and producing the most amount of power.
Yes. Yeah. So I hear that aspect of it there already, that like there could be a place of exploration in terms of like that inner game. What does Joshua look, how is Joshua stepping out into the world in his full power? What will that look like? It's a place that we can explore. And so, and here's the beauty of this conversation. There's no right way to have this conversation. One thing I'll say is that if you do see me looking down, I'm just taking some notes to help us be in the flow of conversation. So I'm not trying to avoid you or anything like that. So
I've got a spiral notebook open as well. So.
cool. Yeah, great. So here's the invitation is, without having to get it right, as you reflect on, hey, these are the areas that would be really meaningful to make a difference over the next 6 to 12 months. What what is sort of calling to you? What are the areas that are really, really sitting with you right now?
So, first of all, um, Pam and I got married in 1998. I had a 4-year-old. She was pregnant. We were part of a small, well, no, we weren't, it was not a small, we were part of a larger independent Baptist church. I don't know how much you know about Sunday morning church, if you will. The largest evangelical organization in America is the Southern Baptist Convention, or was 25 years ago. The SBC has certainly taken a hit, deservedly so. Most of the major denominations in America, once the internet got big, have all taken a hit, all deservedly so, in my opinion. However, I'm not ready to throw the baby out with the bathwater, if you will. If I had not been taken to any house of worship as a child, I would not have any foundation. I would not have found the place where I'm at now. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you nobody should ever go to church. I'm not saying that. But in 1999, we surrendered for the quote mission field. We thought we were the young married Baptist couple with kids going to Africa. Okay, that's where all the Baptists goes, Africa.
Mm-hmm.
We enrolled in college in Springfield, Missouri. And I was told, because I had a short marriage with my first child, I was a single parent when Pam and I met. I had custody of my child. I am that dad. I coached Little League baseball, basketball, football, took my kids hiking. Pam and I did. We were a very nuclear family. Some old school values. Pam stayed at home. She did not work outside the house, which staying home with 3 kids is a full-time job, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Keeping the clothes washed and food on the table and stuff. So we had I guess, a traditional older school philosophy. And I would say that's one of the reasons we have 3 good children is
Mm-hmm.
because mom was
So Joshua,
there.
can I pause you here for a second?
Yep.
So notice, just what's happening here, right? We're having this conversation about future creation, and you're telling
And
me about the past. Again, nothing wrong with that. But the place that I'd invite you to is, where do you see the connection, even just point blank, succinctly, to where you're going in the future with this? What's present for you?
so we surrendered for the mission field. So I have a call on my life to be in ministry.
Mm.
I do not think that can be full time moving forward because of lack of financial compensation for said ministry. Okay.
Okay.
So in the future, I have been given an opportunity to get my CDL, commercial driver's license, and drive for a local school district, drive a bus 5 days a week, 6:30 in the morning till 8:15, 2 o'clock p.m. till 4:30, pays about $1,500 a month, provides health insurance, and they pay you year round. They take your paycheck and split it up into 12 paychecks instead of 9. So when you're off for 3 months in the summer, you still get paid. Okay.
Yes.
20 hours a week, sweet gig with my rent house and the bus driver job. I would make enough money every month to pay my bills with no financial pressure if I have no major automobile breakdown or no major home repairs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I need that stabilization of my income. I also need health insurance. I do have
Yes.
health. We have Obamacare starting February 1st. I do have the local hospital is paying my health insurance premium for a year. I'm fighting high blood sugar. Working on that right now. Matter of fact, I started a fast today that I hope turns into a 96-hour fast. I don't know how much you know about autophagy and metabolic reset and fasting and intermittent fasting, but that's an area I'm super passionate about. And
Mm-hmm.
so I got a constant glucose monitor. I've been taking my blood sugar 12 or 15 times a day since December 28th. I've got my blood sugar down from about 400 to 200, feel a ton better. So, bus driving job is actionable. I can study every day. I have to pass the CDL. I've already passed the practice test online, no problem. I will have to pass a DOT physical, which will include blood draw, which will include an average blood sugar. My physician's working with me, so that's actionable. That changes the financial future I have right now is I'm driving for a company called Favor. I don't know if you've heard of Grubhub or DoorDash.
I
It's very
have. Yep.
simple. I get dispatched a delivery, I accept it, or I turn it down. If I accept it, I go pick up the groceries or the fast food. I take it to the house, I deliver it. The pay's not great, man. I'm used to making, if I'm doing my own thing, I'm used to making $25 or $30 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Driving Favor, 17 or 18 an hour, and you're using your own car and own fuel. So that's actionable. I also began production. Pam and I started a company 2.5 years ago called Abilene Raw Pet Food. I don't know how much you know about the raw pet food business, but you probably see the advertisements all over everything right now.
Mm-hmm.
All that stuff is shipped in. It's fossil fuel heavy. It's in heavy cardboard boxes. It's got freezer packs. It's an ecological nightmare. Okay. Plus, it's super expensive. So I've got 5 dogs. I produce in my living room right over here.
Mm-hmm.
I can produce 750 pounds of dog food a day. It gets frozen. I already have several customers. I already have a logo. I already have a Facebook page. I already have my certified pet nutrition coach certification. I'm working on my certified pet nutrition certification. It's a 200-hour class online. Um, between you and I, within 3 years, I could probably be grossing $2 to $2.5 million a year selling dog food, producing and selling dog food. Not in my living room. It would have to move to a 40 by 60 building at that point. And then I'm not buying the materials for the dog food at my local grocery store. Right now, the largest grocery store in Abilene is 2 blocks away. So when I make
Yes.
dogs, it's all curbside. I'm not holding any inventory. I'm not paying for the raw products until the day I make the dog food. The only problem I have is after the dog food is made, it's perishable. It has to be frozen. But I have an industrial grinder. I have an industrial mixer. So right now I'm doing that in my living room, making $500 or $600 a month in profit, plus paying for my dog's food, which is another $500 or $600 a month in profit. Okay.
Right.
So the bus driving, the raw pet food, and ministry, those three areas, if you will, are all that I can see myself even being able to take care of. Andrew, right now, that would be a stretch. Okay. Driving a bus 20 hours a week, making dog food 12 hours a week, selling dog food 8 or 10 hours a week. Well, now we're already at 45 hours a week. Okay.
Right.
That leaves no time for ministry. That needs no time for a new dating relationship. So basically, the bus driving position would have to be a placeholder for me financially while I got the dog food business making $4,000 or $5,000 a month so I could flourish at that point. Then I would back away from the bus driving job and devote myself pretty much full time to dog food and whatever outlet of community ministry. I live in an area that's 3/4 of a square mile. It's surrounded by 4 major streets, and that has long been the ministry impact zone that I have been praying for. I'm not trying to make a difference in the whole state, just like with my dog food. People all the time will ship me some dog food. No, it's a local product. I don't want to ship it. I don't want to have to be involved in all that. I love relationships. I love looking the person that I'm providing dog food to in the face.
Yes.
And my whole life has been built that way. I have a best friend that comes over every 2 weeks. We sit on my front porch from 5:30 to 7:30 a.m. and we have a smokeless fire pit on my front porch, and we talk about life and difficulties and his kids and my kids. And so I'm not lonely. My son lives a block away. I see him every day. He's 23. My wife, his mom was his best friend. So he's grieving and going through trying to grow up. He's 23 years old. He's 6'4", 280 pounds. So physically and chronologically, he's a man, but mentally he's a boy still. He just is. And so, I have that responsibility to him. My daughter.
Joshua, do you mind if I pause you here again?
Nope, go ahead.
Okay, great.
Focus me, man. Focus me.
All good. So, first of all, amazing. Amazing to hear that like you've got these opportunities from the bus driving to this business that you've created with the dog food. Like, really, I want to acknowledge you. Like, job well done. And you can hear the future vision in that creation. Now, the thing that I will just point to in this is like this pathway that you're creating here is sort of the predictable pathway, right? Like you've got these things in motion. The conversation that I'm going to invite you in for from here on out is really that one of true creation, really stretching, what is possible in terms of your life, and so the first place that I would invite you to is just connecting to what is it that you actually want? When you look at this next 6 to 12 months, if you could create it exactly as you wanted it to, what might be different? How might you be doing things different with your life?
Um, Probably one of the biggest desires I have is to move the procure the finances and move the dog food operation out of my living room / garage,
Yes.
because
Okay.
that's untenable. Um, the market cap, if you will, trying to produce dog food in my living room is limited.
Hmm.
Um, the infrastructure is limited. It also kind of sucks to work all day in your living room and then clean up and then try to relax in your living room at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for speaking to it, right? Like there's something that's there in terms of like next steps. Now, I'm going to ask you a question about this, just based on what you shared, in our messages before about like the potential for coaching or the grief work as well. Is when you look at this vision of career, business, just the direction that you're going, does the dog food business, whatever that could scale to, is that something that actually lights you up, and or is it more of like this is an income generator? And where I'm sort of just, sort of presenting the place to both of us is that I want to support you in getting really clear that if truly there were limitless possibilities here, would the dog food business be the thing that you want to do for the rest of your life? Or is there something that you actually desire to put your gifts towards? What do you notice? Just what's present for you?
So, um, typically, I've never had a business that I haven't been passionate about.
Hmm.
For example, for 20 years, I sold and installed and designed car audio systems, the big cars that went ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom back in the day, competition cars, power windows, cruise controls. I loved working on cars. I grew up with my dad working on the cars under the shade tree on the weekends. I love anything to do with paint jobs, stereos, all that. So for 20 years, I literally never went to work, if that makes sense. I never once woke up and went, shit, I got to go to work today. I always
Hmm.
woke up and did my hobby all day long. It was awesome. It was awesome. That world has changed a lot, so I don't think there's anything there. I'm super passionate about dog food. I'm super passionate about what humans eat and our pets eat, because our nutrition system in North America is broken. Everything about it is broken. We
Hmm.
are actually, if you want to, I don't want to get too deep. We're actually being fed stuff that makes us sick. So we transition into pharmaceutical customers later on in life.
Hmm.
That's basically what's happening to us. We're being farmed, if you will. And so if I had a magic wand to wave tomorrow and I woke up and I could um, make $80,000 to $100,000 a year, because if I had an income of $80,000 to $100,000 a year, and I'm not limiting myself because it could be
Hmm.
more than that, okay? But if I had a income of $80,000 to $100,000 a year, I could do a lot of things that a lot of people can't do because of the debt load they have. Um, so if I could wave a magic wand tomorrow, it would be um, I would have a functional nutrition practice that would employ a doctor and a nutritionist, and I would be kind of the salesman, if you will, the public figure who has lost 150 pounds, who's out evangelizing in the community about this life change, and having clients come in and have a robust practice where people are coming in because of the knowledge and care and relationship they're gaining, they're changing their lives that way.
Yeah.
There's not enough people where I live to really make that a reality. It would have to be a lot of that would have to be online. I've tried that path for 10 years. That's a very difficult path. So I would say dog food would be a mechanism, an investment. If I'm going to do dog food, I would like to, within 36 months, the dog food business being managed by somebody who's making 75 or 80 grand a year. And I'm still making 75 or 80 grand a year because of the hard work I put into the first 5 years. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
It's my
So
it's my business. I own it, but now it's just it's passive income with
yes,
very little input from me.
really great work, because I already, we're on the verge of possibilities really opening up. And, just some of the things that I hear, right, is like you're talking about, okay, 3 years from now, I want to have the dog food business. I'm the owner of it, but I have staff, I have a staff member who's able to manage it. It's a passive income stream. And, what we're really starting to point to is that the thing that you actually really desire here is this nutrition practice. The facility where you've got doctors, you've got services that are provided, and you get to be the face of that organization. Now, if you just stay with that, take me into that experience, right? You get to create this nutrition business, and you get to be like the face of it. You get to be the person out, the person that is promoting this way of nutritious living. What would that mean to you?
Well, I mean, obviously, we could approach that kind of as a diamond, if you will. There's going to be multiple facets to it.
Hmm.
Um, I grew up in a household where we didn't drink, we don't smoke, we don't screw the neighbor's wife, and we don't covet her Escalade. But on Sundays after church, we can eat so much that we fall asleep watching the Dallas Cowboys, and nobody ever wanted to talk about that. It's
Yes.
like we have these 7 deadly sins, okay? And everybody wants to talk about all of them except gluttony. And then again, our food system being broken. If you have a brain that receives excitement, a dopamine release from going to a buffet or from eating a half a gallon of ice cream, but that is where you get your dopamine is from food stuff, you're going to have a very hard time in America being successful in any shape, form, or fashion,
Hmm.
or probably Canada too. You're going to have a really tough time.
For
Um,
sure. So let me pause you here for a second. What was the question that I asked you?
the question was, if this functional nutrition business was a success, what would that mean to me?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
would
And
mean,
just notice what happened there in your answer. Oh, 1 second. The audio, I lost you on. Oh, you muted. Yeah, go ahead.
always always tempered with, like, I'm having to convince you because of this stuff in the past that this is a good path forward, if you will.
Okay. So great that you're seeing that for yourself. I would also say too that, like, there's there's an explanation of why that this is important, right? And there isn't actually, I'm not saying that it's not there, but I'm not actually hearing about what that means to you. What would it actually mean to you if you were able to create that business and be this representation of a life well lived through nutrition, really connecting to what would the impact be on you?
It
Solely
would
you.
be victory,
Victory.
victory.
What
I've
else?
been
Yeah, what? Keep
I've been
going.
overweight, struggling with my health since I was 12 years old. I was over 300 pounds when I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
To me, our whole life is spiritual warfare. There is goodness in this world. There is darkness in this world.
Oh, you might have muted again. You're good.
Um, the darkness is always trying to destroy the light. Scripture says we are to be a light to this world. To me, a successful functional nutrition practice would be victory, and it would be shining what I believe is truth into the world.
Yes. Beautiful. And this is the place to continue to just connect to when you think of the future vision of where you're going, right? Like victory. I also heard like I have a hunch there's a legacy aspect here. You know, that as 30 years down the road, you creating this functional nutrition business and the impact that it has, that there's gonna be a legacy that's created from that. Light, goodness. It's a representation of good in the world and truth. What a powerful opportunity to bring to the world. Now, as we continue this conversation of possibility, and you've spoken to, there's the dog food business, and the dog food business is a potential revenue generator. And at the heart of what you're desiring to create is this functional nutrition business. And I would just put it to you, coming from that place of possibility, coming from that place of like, if I had that magic wand, what would be created here and by when? When do you want to bring this nutrition business into the world?
Well, so there is my current position is into functional nutrition. I've known him for 10 years. He has seen me at 420 pounds. Last conversation with him, he said, "Man, I'm opening a new clinic. We're going to have a place to grow some food. I'm probably 2 years away from possibly being able to offer you a part-time job as somebody who would grow food here, be an example for this business." So 2 years from now, I would, now I say that because I'm already doing some of that with people. If somebody calls me now and wants to talk about how they can get started on redeeming their health, having victory, I meet with those people now. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sitting around, I'm not the guy that says, I can't do this until I have this. I'm the guy that
Yes.
says, I can do this while still building this. And so my social media, because of the nonprofit and because honestly, Andrew, the social equity the nonprofit has accumulated in Abilene, if I threw up tomorrow on the nonprofit's Facebook page that the nonprofit was taking a different direction and we were offering nutrition counseling, even myself individually, hey, I'm just willing to come sit across from you at your kitchen table for $50 for an hour, and I'm willing to give you the 10 bullet points of how I've changed my life, I could probably start booking those appointments tomorrow, quite honestly.
Beautiful.
I'm also passionate about the dog food because of the health I've I mean, I've got people who are feeding their dogs my product, and their dogs are not dropping their fur anymore. They're not itching. They're not scratching themselves. And the amount of profit that's in the dog food business from a strict monetary percentage standpoint is huge. And it's the height of raw pet food marketing right now. They estimate that market to grow by 30% a year for the next 15 years, dude.
Mm-hmm.
So there are more people in my geographic area who would spend money on high quality pet food right now than there is people who would spend high quality or who would spend money on high quality nutrition advice. So from a business standpoint, from a, hey, let's make hay while the sun shines, or let's strike the iron while it's hot, the pet food business could absolutely be the foundational launch for the next 12, 15, 20, 30, 40 years, however long I'm here. That raw pet food business could be the linchpin. I mean, brother, I'm selling this stuff for $3.50 a pound, almost hand over fist if I want to. And after I pay my son to help me make it, after I bag it, after it's been put in the freezer, before I've paid myself a penny, I've got $1.49 a pound in this product.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, 1,000 pounds of it a month is $2,000 in profit.
Right.
I don't have any liability insurance. I don't have to have any, it doesn't have to meet any health codes. All it has to be stamped is not for human consumption.
Right.
And
So let me
reg-
just jump in on this part though. And again, you're gonna get to choose the path here, right? You know, and the beautiful thing is both things can be incorporated. But the thing that I really want to invite you to is like if you had to just choose one, right? The dog food business or the functional nutrition practice as just a place of like this is where I want to put my time, effort and energy towards, which one would you choose?
the human business over the dog business.
Right.
I mean, I could take the $2,500 of equipment that I've purchased that's paid for. I don't owe anybody any money for it. I've got 4 freezers in my garage. I could keep on making food for my dogs for the rest of my life. And I could work one day, I could work 6 days a year, literally 6 12-hour days a year, and make enough dog food for my dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Right. Okay. And so again, and we're just playing with options here right now. So as you're speaking to it, right? Like the thing that's really the motivator for you is the functional nutrition for humans, right? And so just, you know, even before we move on to from that, how does it feel to actually own that? That like this is where I would put my time, my energy, and my effort. Like just to actually say that.
It it feels empowering to say it to another human who I know because of what you do. That, well, I'll just put it this way: I know you care about me, or I would not be talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
Period. I've already prayed through this. I've already kind of been watching you on the peripheral for 8 or 10 days. My sense of discernment is pretty developed. Like sometimes I hate it because I meet somebody and I know that I'm supposed to stay away from that person,
Mm-hmm.
but then I bypass my discernment and I end up getting burned
Yeah.
because I knew better. You ever been there before?
Oh yeah.
You know, and so I know you're on the up and up. I know you care. Yes, the it would not be a distraction from the functional nutrition business for me to only make dog food 6 days a week for my dogs. I mean,
Right.
6 a year for my dogs, right? That's only 6 days a year, dude. That's not a distraction at all. Okay.
Totally.
So yes, the ability to sit across from the table to somebody and somebody who is desperate, because there are people in our society right now, when it comes to losing weight, having lower blood pressure, having better sex drive, having more energy, sleeping better, having energy for chasing their kids around or their grandkids around. There are more people that are desperate and hopeless in that area than I could ever even help all of them.
Yeah.
They're everywhere. I was one of them.
Hmm.
I have a path. It's not an easy path. There is no easy path to redeeming your health. There is no shortcut. There is no magic wand. There is a certain way you have to do things, or those numbers are not going to change. They're
For
not.
sure.
And
For
so,
sure.
yes, being a um, being an evangelist of all the things that come with redeeming your health. I mean, there's so many layers to it. Again, back to that multifaceted diamond, there's so many different angles to it. Sitting across a table from somebody or having a meeting like you or I are having and inspiring hope to that person, confidence to that person that this can be done, that would keep me kind of in that meat in the middle, I believe.
Yes. Beautiful. And that's what we're looking for, right? As you spoke to, like that real essence of like, this is fulfilled living, stepping into that place. So, I've got about 8 minutes and then we'll start to wind down our conversation. But like, here's what I would put to you is okay. So knowing that the functional nutrition practice is going to be is at the forefront, it's the thing that you're desiring to create. Where do you want to be in the next 6 to 12 months with this? Truly calling yourself forward. What would it look like?
So, ironically, um, the lady that I'm seeing right now, and we are just friends. We met at a singles retreat in December that was specifically for people in our faith group that I told you about earlier. Okay. She's a moderator in a group on Facebook. She reached out to me, made sure I got to this retreat in Galveston on the beach. Now we're investigating a friendship, hoping it turns into a relationship. Her dream in life is to be part of a functional medical practice.
Beautiful.
Didn't even know this until we started talking about it. We both intermittent fast. We both want to get in better shape. I mean, it's just again multi-layered. So, you said the next 6 months. Where would I like to be in 6 months? I don't think there's any reason that people would not pay me $50 an hour. And perhaps I'm underselling my stuff because of the No More Mr. Nice Guy. I don't think there's any doubt that people would pay $50 to $100 an hour
Hmm.
to have somebody come sit in their living room or their kitchen table across from them. I think we're probably talking about me providing coaching in an area that's not much different from what you're doing for me.
Yes,
Sense?
for sure. So
I would like to
the
be booking 10 appointments a month at $50 to $100 a piece.
perfect. Okay, so 10 appointments a month. Now, here's the kicker, right? Is you talked about a financial goal, of 80 to 100K per year. And I realized like that was sort of like, hey, if I was making 80 to 100K per year, like this is what would open up for me. Here's what I would just put to you is like, okay, if we look at, let's even mark it to like the end of 2024, paint me that picture of what this could look like for you, just from that place of possibility. What truly is that experience that you'd want to have with this? How would this business look for you by the end of the year?
So, number one, I would think that the school bus gig, because of the hours, 8 to 9:15, 2 to 2:30, I would think that the bus driving position would still be in play because of the minimal time commitment and the financial foundation that provides. Okay.
Yep.
I.e., if I do this school bus job every month, and with the rental that my son pays on the rent house, my son lives in my rent house, but he pays his rent, no problem whatsoever. So that's $2,000 a month from school bus driving and my rental income. That takes care of all my bills, Andrew, and takes any financial pressure off of me for initial performance of a nutritional consulting business. Okay.
Yes.
So if if I
Hmm.
booked if I booked 10 appointments a month at an average of $75 a piece, and that was just basically under the table income right now, coming in either cash or Venmo. I'm not trying to report that income right now. That's $750 a month. Well, that's $9,000 a year, brother. That's beginning to make a huge. If you don't have any debt,
Yeah.
$9,000. That's two nice vacations, two really nice vacations a year, or it's one really nice vacation a year and the ability to put some money in the bank for grandkids' college, or I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead. I'm really coming out of the 24 and a half years with Pam, Andrew, were extraordinarily difficult because Pam had a nervous breakdown in 2006. She suffered from borderline personality disorder. I don't know how much you know about that psychological ailment, but it's tough.
Hmm.
It's real tough. Matter of fact, us still being married was a miracle. And so, while I miss Pam, dude, I miss her so bad. Like, there's really no way to put in words how much I miss her. We were around each other 155 hours out of 168 a week. Okay.
Yes.
Dog food business together, ministry together, nonprofit together. I haven't had a traditional 8 to 5 job for years. Now, while that enabled us to do a lot of things together, I was her primary caregiver. I had to take her to all her doctor's appointments, fill out all her forms, all her Social Security meetings with her because she was on disability. She received a monthly check from the government because of her disability. So while I miss Pam, the latest grieving process for me has been because when somebody dies, it's natural to focus on all the positives.
Hmm.
But in the last 6 months, I've had to go through and grieve the negative, and nobody ever thinks about that.
Hmm.
They want to
Hmm.
grieve positive stuff about somebody they've lost, but they don't want. I do not miss Pam's mental illness.
Yes.
I, dude, it controlled both of us.
So I'm gonna step in on this part here, just based on the time, and I really do appreciate you putting that into the conversation. And my hunch from what you're sharing here is there's something here that is connected to this opening that's happening here. You know, like this place of possibility around the functional nutrition business and what could be. It feels like that there's this something in the space that you're noticing.
It's a rebirth.
Yes.
This losing Pam again. I won't get deep in the woods, but I believe that we are assigned a certain number of days, and I believe that July 19th of 2022, Pam Casey was going to die. Okay, I believe that.
Mm.
I believe it could have been a motorcycle accident, could have been a car wreck, could have been raped, robbed, and murdered. I'm very grateful I was with her. We were happy. We were having a wonderful day. We had a wonderful lunch. I gave her a kiss. We were bantering right before the wreck, giving each other a hard time. We were having a fantastic day, dude. So life could be so much worse. I had a guy tell me, well, I don't like your story. And I said, how come? He said, because my wife had a car wreck on the way to work, and 15 minutes before she died, I told her she was the biggest cunt I've ever known. And she told me I was the biggest asshole she's ever known. He said, I'm not even sure she didn't kill herself because of what I told her. So life could be way worse, bro.
Yes.
This is, I've got two choices here. I either continue to live in the past and continue to be a half successful, pretty good person, man. I'm dependable. I'm reliable. I'm helpful. I am a pretty solid citizen. I'm not satisfied with that.
Yes. I hear that.
So
I hear, as you said, it's the rebirth, you know, and that's so what I want to just put to you from this conversation then is, what are some next steps for you? What are you seeing from this conversation that we've had that you could take on from here, or just, you know, be in the awareness of anything that's showing up for you?
Study my school bus stuff, get that done. That's a couple of years of low hanging fruit income wise.
Yeah.
And probably flesh out this, what does nutritional coaching without accreditation look like? Because you can look at a picture of me from 10 years ago and look at me now, and I'm telling you, that's enough accreditation for most people. Okay.
Yep.
Most people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yes.
And I care, dude. I care a lot about people's health. And so probably it looks like deciding on a name and probably putting myself out there and say, hey, here's my health journey the last 10 years. And all of this is information you can get on the internet. But, you know, I've learned that sitting down and having a conversation with somebody is the best way to get this done. And just offer to spend time with people, man. Just like you did with me. There's got to be a money conversation at some point. But I want to be very blunt with you. Money does not motivate me in the context of piles of it. Do not motivate me. Being financially independent and being able to go on one $5,000 to $10,000 vacation a year, that intrigues me. I've never been I went to Mexico last spring on a little resort 3-day deal with my family, and I was like, wow, people actually do stuff like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there are places I want to go. There are things I want to do. Luckily, I'm a young 52. I'm not a couch potato. I can't sit still. Where all this began to change for me is 4 months ago, I was diagnosed with severe adult ADHD and put on Adderall. And I hated to be put on Adderall, but day one, my life changed.
Yes.
All of a sudden, I could start and finish projects. And at the end of the day, I'm actually less anxious because now I'm able to see what I got accomplished that day instead of 12 different projects. I finished 1 or 2 projects instead of opening 12.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So I'm gonna offer you a couple things here in terms of these practices, and then I'm gonna put out a little challenge to you. So in
Okay.
terms of the, the school bus information, the learning that you need to do, the exams, what's the first tangible step there? Like what's a commitment that you can make?
Um, Man, if I made a commitment of 5 hours a week studying that
Okay.
material, um, I could probably test by the end of February.
Okay. And how committed are you to that in terms of like, does that structure feel achievable? Does it feel out of reach in terms of 5 hours a week and then testing by, you said end of February?
No, man, it doesn't feel unobtainable at all. I've sat around for 18 months, pretty much recovering mentally and physically.
Hmm.
I definitely stare at my TV too much. Um,
Great. Well, that's a
yeah,
starting place. That's a starting place, so that's the commitment there. So we'll talk more about, next conversation, but willing to just report back on that, in terms of like, hey, I put in 5 hours this week.
I'm writing that down.
Beautiful. And taking the exam at the end of February. Um, I'm going to leave you with the second one that you committed to in terms of what can nutritional coaching look like, just allowing that to be an exploration. And now the place that I would give you is um, this may feel like a bit of a challenge. We'll see. But my invitation to you is to have a conversation around the nutritional coaching, whether it's with a past person you've been in conversation with or somebody that is sort of like, in the wheelhouse right now, so to speak, in somebody who's looking for that support that of actually proposing the money conversation, of actually stepping out onto the court and putting that out there. How do you feel about that? Of just taking that leap?
I'm 100. I absolutely 100% know I'm capable of it. Um, I'm capable of inspiring, hope in people. I'm capable. I already have a curriculum, a format, if you will, 10 bullet points to changing your health. I've worked on that for several years. It would not require much refinement. Um, Asking for money in exchange for that, coming from the mind frame of years and years and years, I just thought that I'm going to go spread all this good in the neighborhood and the money's going to come. And that never happened. It just never happened for whatever reason. Um,
Right. Well, did you ask for it?
yeah, I tried to fundraise a lot. Um, People just weren't interested in employing a pastor of this platform, if you will. Now, move to a city, Dallas, Houston, whatever, I think it would have been much easier. One of the problems we have here is living in the cotton belt, the wheat belt. There's a lot of agriculture here, but it's agribusiness. It's not human centric. It's not anything about feeding people. It's about agribusiness. It's about big money.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So let me come at it from a different angle, and we'll see. The practice there that I see then as the next step is putting together some, you mentioned using like you could potentially shift the nonprofit to focus more on this consulting. My invitation to you is to create something that you could give to somebody, like maybe a one-page PDF that shows, hey, this is what we're going to do in our 1 hour conversation, and this is the fee. That you've got a structure there that you can start to present this to people with. You open to starting with that?
so we're going to create something that we're going to give to a prospective client.
As sort of like just like an info packet, so to speak, right? Almost like a, hey, if we're going to have a conversation together, these are the, you're not giving them the product, but you're giving them, you know, this is what you would expect us to explore in our 1 hour session. Here's the fee. Somewhere that you could direct somebody to something like that. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Cool.
And
And
this
go ahead.
this could even segue into my personal position. This could
Yes.
easily this could easily segue into me partnering or going to work for him and having an office at his place to there's
Yes.
so many Andrew, there's so many how old are you?
I'm 36.
So there are so many men 30 to 60 years old who want to sit down and talk with a man about these issues. They don't want to talk to some cute little size 4 nutritionist.
Yes.
They're intimidated. They
Yes.
want man wants to talk to a man, and they want to talk to a successful man. They don't want to talk to somebody who's beating around the bush. I think you probably know this.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so, and I love where you're looking, right? Like you're already seeing, like, here's the connection. I can bring this to the physician, and like there's a possibility that you're already connecting those dots. And what's the by when? When will you have this, you know, 1 page document completed by?
What's today? The 23rd.
23rd.
Um, I don't see why there's any reason that I can't have that done in a week's time. I mean, that's a week seems like a long time to me right now.
Okay, cool. So we're looking at a week from now would be Monday the 29th.
Tuesday the 30th.
Okay. Okay. So same thing, you know, when you report back on the 5 hours for the studying, just feel free to let me know when you've got that document completed.
Okay.
Really great work. I want to give you some acknowledgement for how you showed up in this conversation. And I just, you know, want to really just check in with you in terms of like, how was this conversation for you today as a intro conversation, we'll call it, you know, really just a conversation of exploration. Like, how was it for you?
So, number one, I really, really appreciate the 3 times that you chimed in and got me refocused. Um,
Mm,
I know I have visionary tendencies, coupled that with ADHD. I know I get chasing rabbits sometimes, and in the past, I've had a buddy tell me, "Hey, man, that conversation was great, but if you could have just zeroed in, I felt like we could have been more efficient." And I'm like, "Well, then say something, then speak up." I very much want to be communicated on a blunt slash rudimentary method when it comes to that type of break. No, dude, focus. I know that's a spot that is tough for me, and I know that trying to justify my current behavior with the past story is a weakness for me as well. So I appreciate that. I think you've got a great bedside manner, if you will. I really enjoyed our time together. It kind of flew by, as these kind of things often do when you enjoy spending time with somebody. But I don't know why I came across you specifically. I I try not to even ask those big questions, but I've been praying for 6 months for somebody to come into my life that could help me, who could be a friend, but more importantly, could be a coach. Somebody who, you know, Bill Belichick says, "Listen, man, yes, me and Tom Brady were friendly, but I'm his coach."
yeah. Yeah,
And
and the cool thing about this work even more as I get deeper into it is like, you know, obviously, you know, there's, you could call it structures, experience, you know, there's all these things that, yes, there's sort of like a foundation in the conversation, but really the beauty of it is that there becomes a oneness in the space. We are one in the cultivation of the life that you want to create. And that there almost becomes there isn't a coach and client in the space. We are just one here creating your life. And it's so cool. And so I really appreciate you speaking to it. And thank you, for just being in this conversation. I want to give you some acknowledgement as well, and then we'll stop the recording and we'll finish our conversation for today. I just really want to acknowledge you for, your gift, your connection to, as you said, like, you approach life with this positivity that, I have no doubts that there has been struggles in life, frustrations in life, and for a lot of people that becomes their life. They can't see past those things. And what I'm present to with you is like, you just see the possibility of life. You see, like, you can connect the dots in terms of like, I can create this, but I really want to go this way, and this is what I really desire. I so much acknowledge you for who you are, for the connection and the community that you create. It's so obviously clear that there's a real part of you that really just desires to have good with humanity. You talked about, sharing with people how to grow food, and, that just being like a foundation of what you've created to this point, and the opportunity to continue to expand, and expand in this level of connection and service that you bring to the world. It's such a gift, and it makes it so fun to just be in the conversation with you. So thank you for really showing up. Thank you for really putting your all into the conversation.
You're welcome. In the 12-step program, I think this is probably the biggest statement for me, the biggest quote, the biggest motivational whatever is the quote that says, "We are powerless over people, places, and things."
Mm-hmm.
And when I really believe that, the day I really believed that, my life was on a whole different course.
Yeah.
There's not a thing I can do about Pam being gone. There's not a thing I can do about my youngest daughter not speaking to me and blaming me for the accident and telling me she's going to change her last name for my last name. There's literally nothing I can do about the heartache that the motorcycle crash has produced for multiple people, dude. I mean, Pam was, even though she wasn't a community face, if you will, she was such a leader. She was such a servant. Um,
Oh, you muted there. You muted Josh.
Next time we go on the phone, I'm going to use my other phone so we can talk without all these interruptions. But
All good.
anyways, how often do we do this?
Yeah.
Um, et cetera, or you can turn off the taping and we can talk about that for a minute and go from there.